welcome everybody. We're going to do a little bit of studying. This is my every other Thursday Facebook show where I come on and I put together a lesson that I think is helpful for you. So we're going to talk about plein air painting today and what happens after the fact, right? Besides that you're exhausted and all of that, those things are all come with it. But if you're new to my Facebook show and you don't know who I am, I'm Linda Glover Gooch. I am a painter. And I'm also the creator of masterfulpainting.com, where I have online courses, I teach in-person workshops, and I paint, right? Which we all probably are working on doing, our painting, our creative journey. It's super sunny today in Arizona. We are about 81 degrees right now. We've been having a little bit of warmer weather, but that's part of living in the desert, right? Speaking of Arizona, I always like to share some pictures. So I'm going to take you first to the Grand Canyon because today I'm going to show you a lesson of how I brought some plein air pieces back from the Grand Canyon, and they were, they were okay. I felt like I could make them better. So I just put together a little lesson on me making one of those better, and I'll share that in a minute. But first, let me show you Arizona. All right, there is the Grand Canyon. And I put this slide in there because this is the day that I did the plein air that I am going to show you what I did to change it after I came back from the studio. But that's out there at the Powell Point area at the Grand Canyon. And then here's another shot. Beautiful. I love those moody scenes where we get those dark shadows towards the back and then some of the light hitting the front cliffs. You get some of those clouds in there. That's one of the great things about the Grand Canyon. I've been painting at the Grand Canyon plein air for probably close to 18, 20 years, somewhere around there. Super challenging place to paint. And we have also this gorgeous piece. Is that not pretty? Look at how those clouds are developing that shadow. And it just makes it so pretty. That's the one thing about plein air, though, with clouds and shadows. Set your drawing right away because that's all going to change, like everything does, right? We know all those shadows, they move around. So that's one of the hard things about plein air. Typically, we only have about 3 hours. I spend usually 3 hours on a piece. Sometimes they come out not needing any work. Sometimes they need work. So what I'm going to show you today is, let me take you to a slide. So I'm going to show you right here, this slide. This is a piece from the Grand Canyon that I did, and I painted it on site. I believe it was in the show. It didn't sell. I brought it home, and then I thought, I think I could just work a few things over. And I actually did work a lot of this whole piece, but all I'm going to talk about today is this front cropping, this front cliff right here. This is a close-up of that rock formation. In 3 hours times, there's a lot going on in the Grand Canyon. You have to decide what your focus is and what's the most important elements. And that's true in any landscape, whether you're in the Rocky Mountains, whether you're at the desert, at the ocean, what is the important parts? And I'm not a real fast painter. So I did not get this part kind of where I wanted it, right? So I'm going to take you on a little journey. I have a lesson, all right, that a video that I put together regarding that very area. And I'm looking down here at my screen. So I'm going to take us to this video. Now, this video is some pre-recorded stuff. So the talking in it is pre-recorded. But I put all this together as a lesson, though I'm here live. This is some stuff that I did to put together to just I like this teaching element to be able to play a video and talk to you about it, opposed to having to do it on site and try to figure it out. I can focus a little bit more right now speaking to you on some of these elements.
So we're going to get into the topic of plein air pieces. So plein air is an awesome teacher, and at the Grand Canyon it can be really, really overwhelming. But there are a lot of times when I paint a piece plein air, 3 hours on site, I never have to touch it again. I'm happy with it, and it sells, it goes, and I'm quite pleased with it. But there's a lot of pieces that come back home, come to the studio after an on-site trip, and I want to tweak them. and so I will. I'm not all about just saying it was a plein air piece, quote, plein air, and I can't touch it again. Because for me, what I want to put out for my collectors are just very strong pieces of work that engage in emotion, that remind them of something that they can enjoy and put on their walls. So we're going to go through a few videos where I'm showing you some changes I made so that you can go back and look at your plein air pieces. And it may not even be the Grand Canyon. It could be a totally different subject, but I hope these are enjoyable, educational, and inspiring. But where I really do think I could bring this one up is right here of this foreground cropping. I love the shapes. This is at Powell Point at the Grand Canyon, and I think I can put more rich color in it, even though it's in the shadow, because where the light source was coming from it was afternoon and it was coming this way. Most of this was shadowed, but there are some lights clicking the edges. And you'll see that when I work up close what I'm talking about. Now, I'm going to oil out because this whole painting is completely dry. So I keep linseed oil in a small plastic bottle, pour a little dab in the middle, and I'm using cheesecloth here. It just makes the paint go on a lot nicer. Really rub out that oil. Now, my point being, I want this cliff to become a part of the drawing that it's in, part of the scene, so to speak. So I'm coming in with more darks, but I also brought that air color in that I was discussing earlier, just to make that blend a little bit smoother. Continuing with more darks, I am using a soft brush. Now here I am clicking the edges with more light, wanting to bring up a little more detail up close, but I don't want this to be pasted on. At this point, I've pretty much worked through this whole painting, and there are a few things that I'm going to go back and just tweak, and so I wanted to explain to you before I do. And I'm really happy with all of this, and I'm not displeased with this foreground, but there's one element that I think I could add to it, and this is it. I want to bring what I consider the air color, the shadows, the atmosphere. I want to try to bring a little bit more of that into this foreground area. It's almost like there's this scene and then that. And a lot of times we see this happen on paintings where there's something looks a little pasted on or a little too hard. And I think this is just a little bit too hard edged. I think it could go just like this, and it's very sellable, and there are people that probably would love it. But my taste, I want the blending of that foreground cropping a little bit more into its element. I want it to be a part of the painting, not feeling like it's a separate object right here in my face, which in all actuality it is. Out there at the canyon you have that vast space, and then a lot of those croppings and edges next to you are right there in your face. But this is a small little 8x10. I'm trying to convey a message with it, and I just want a little softening. So I'll take some of my air color, which you're learning about in this video, my air color, my atmosphere color. I'm going to take some of that color and I'm going to probably bring it down in value. It won't be light like some of the areas through here. I'm going to work to bring it down in value and put it in its place, which is there's a lot of shadow going on. But all of this is really in the absence of light, but I can still pull some beautiful colors in there. There are some really rich, warm colors now, so I'm going to pull some of that air color in. I want you to notice that I'm bringing that air color right along the outside edge where it meets space, where it goes out into the canyon. This is the problem of why things can look pasted on, is that edge is dark a lot of times, but we need to tie in color harmony to make them blend together, if that's the proper way to say it. I'm not really blending, but there will be some softening. So that's that white, ultramarine blue deep, and cad red light. Now, I want you to notice that I'm really working those outside edges. Now I'm taking a soft brush, that's a rosemary soft brush, and I am blending that edge there. I don't want that edge to be super hard pasted on. Just creating more of a feeling of air between the two scenes.
Okay. So hopefully the main point to that video was this. When you have whatever it might be, you might be in the mountains, all right? And you have these big trees up front, or maybe rocks or a river, whatever it is. Bring the air color, the atmosphere color of your scene, get it and bring it down into the edges, like the edges of the trees could have just touches of it. There's nothing worse than having this great painting and then we've got this cut out tree, right? It needs to blend into that because we need to think about that air encompasses around the front of the tree, down around the ground. If you can get your mindset to like that's air, and you do it in still lifes too. You know, your background colors come around, your shadows work into some of those elements up close, those other items. So it's that same thought process. It's color harmony. Value does play a role here. I mentioned in that video that I'm bringing that air color down in value. There's no way I'm going to keep it light like what's in the background. So, also, you know, in thinking those terms, you got to think value too, but bringing that in. And then on the outside edges, if you take anything away today, I want you to take this. Whether you're working on a studio piece or you are reworking a plein air piece, look at those edges right here where they come off into space. The edge of the rock here and then the space over here. All right. That's where you need that mixture really touched in there. And then I do put it in other areas of that, the shadow areas of that piece. The main thing is to try to create color harmony and make it feel like it's a part of the same scene. And I do want to make note of this. In that video, I said, I don't just take it and say, oh, it's a plein air and I can't touch it again. You know, this is regarding you are out plein air painting. Now, if you're in a plein air show, different shows have different rules. So you want to play by the rules. If they say no reworking in your room at night, then you don't. But there are a lot of plein air events that you're out working and you're trying to create for a show. And a lot of times, lots of artists will tweak a little bit in the evenings if they couldn't finish a certain part, couldn't get all of the edges where they wanted softened. So, you know, just play by the rules, what's ethical within the realm of what you're working on. But for me, when I bring plein air pieces, these are all plein air pieces behind me. When I bring them back to the studio, if I feel like I can do some improvement on them, I will. But I'm going to take you back to the slides now because I'm going to continue this subject that we're talking about, tweaking plein air paintings, you know, and everybody has a different opinion about that. Some people don't think it's right. You get to pick. This is your trip. That's how I look at it. And if I feel like I can make a better painting out of it before I send it off to a show or before I send it off to the gallery, then I will do it. And again, that's abiding by rules. If it's strictly a plein air show and you're not supposed to have worked on it in the studio, then you abide by that. All right. Those are my qualifying statements so I don't get anybody, you know, mad at me over this subject because there are some people that think plein air should not be touched. I'm like, a painting should be better. That's my rule. Anyway, so that was my point. If you see those edges where I put those arrows, they were very warm and ochery before I started. And that's where I brought that blue in. I really wanted that color harmony to work through there. All right. Then let's look at another scene. This is a plein air piece I did at the Grand Canyon up on the South Rim. You know, I was like, okay, it's a tough subject. I was all right with it, but when I got home with it, I thought, can I make that better? What's missing? And I felt like I was a little bit short in the left corner of like a close-up scene, just because of the feeling that I didn't really do enough. Who knows? Maybe I ran out of time. These were pretty complex mesas out there. So I brought it home and I put more foreground in it. And obviously, I had images to work from, but you can see where I added more foreground. I also worked in the sky and I worked in the background. Now I'm going to show you a shot here of the two side by side. On the left, the plein air painted, excuse me, at the canyon, excuse me, that was how I brought it home. That was my 3 hours on site. On the right, I brought it in. Okay, I thought my sky was a little boring, so I brightened up the sky and threw a little bit of cloud work in there. Then as I came forward, I worked on those back mesas, and I almost wish that I hadn't worked on those back mesas. When I look at the two pictures side by side, I think I like what I did plein air better than what I did in the studio, bringing those up with more warmth. Now, that is one of the downfalls that can happen when you go to work on a piece. That's whether it's a studio piece or a plein air piece. You take it further than it was. And I actually like the one on the left better. But oh well, won't cry over spilt milk, right? The painting is long gone and sold. So moving forward, um, there's a little bit of difference in color here, and I don't know if it's my image is way warmer and those mesas, those front mesas are a little bit pinker in the image on the left. Not sure if there was a difference just because of photography, but you can definitely see the front rock, and I like that way better. I like how I brought in more work there. To me, it made a better painting out of it. So that was just, my change in that. And again, everybody has their own opinion on this. If you guys like this, share it with a friend. If you've had discussions with friends about, let's say you've had discussions with friends about plein air painting, share this and let people catch on to this idea. Sometimes I think people are afraid to rework a painting, but I did that little session in there, that little video of oiling it out, which it really makes it nice to paint over it. And you don't leave a lot of linseed oil on there. It's really rubbed out with that cheesecloth. I use cheesecloth because it doesn't leave any lint. The whole t-shirt thing doesn't work for me. It just seems like I always have little pieces of cloth, old cotton t-shirts, just cheesecloth works great. And so, oil that out really good. And it really does make a nice surface to paint on it. Now, if by chance you varnished that painting for some reason, you do have to remove the varnish. That is one thing to realize as well. Someone said on here, Cindy, you are working on the rock course, which I'm super excited that you're doing that. I hope that that's going well. I have a slide on here. That is all about rocks. That sits at masterfulpainting.com. If you want to learn more about rocks, that's a course that I have, takes you into deep detail painting those big rocks right there in front of us. And you get a really good lesson on trees in that too. So that's at masterfulpainting.com/courses. You can go there and study up on that. And it's a good course. Lots of lesson in it there. So checked out the blog all the time. Great videos. Thank you, Cindy. I'm glad. Yeah, I put a lot of work into that. So, I always would email people Teaching Tuesday emails, and I would have all this information in the email itself with videos and link to videos and have images. And then I would have people like email me at, sporadic times, and they would say, I wanted to watch that lesson on, silver lining and I lost the email. Is there a way to find it? And I realized that that was a little bit of an issue for people, and I'm in the same boat. That my inbox has way too many like lesson things or emails from artists that I think, okay, I'll read that later. I'll read that later. I have this long list in my inbox, and to go back and find those things, it just isn't always, not always able to do it. So the blog is what I came up with as an idea to categorize and to bring things together. So this Facebook Live every other Tuesday, it coincides with the blog. I'm sorry, Facebook Live every other Thursday, it coincides with the blog. So I try to put together a lesson, and that's why I always bring kind of a video lesson. That way I can talk about it. And to me, it's a much stronger teaching tool for me than if I did a live video for you, a live demo for you. 15-minute demo, you can't get much done on, right? But on my videos, I can kind of pick and choose little areas to put together a really nice lesson. I'm working hard to give you guys good information out there, and just to keep you going. Hey, I've been painting for well over 50 some years, and I've had a lot of really good teachers. I've had a lot of really good people that just gave and gave and gave and really helped me along the way. So that's my idea of giving back. And I do like to teach, and it was COVID that pushed me online. I really only did in-person workshops, but COVID was, the big pivot for me, and I realized how much I love it. I really love teaching online. I like to do the Zooms. I like to meet with people. For me, like these Facebook Lives are becoming like I'm really looking forward to these every other Thursday because I feel like you guys are like coming in the studio with me. As painters, we spend a lot of time alone, right? And so it's really cool to spend this time. So I want to thank you guys. Hey, I hope this was a helpful lesson. Don't ever hesitate to go back and rework a painting. Like I'm looking at, behind me here and those seascapes that I did, I'm probably going to tweak them here in the studio. I feel like, there's some tweaking I could do to them. This little piece right here from the canyon, I actually brought it back, and sorry, the screen is like backwards when I'm doing it. And I livened up this foreground. Like the back had worked pretty good. There was a lot of atmosphere, but my foreground just, I don't know, it just wasn't doing it for me. So I brought it back and I really tweaked this and notice, let me see if I can get it a little bit closer. Notice that air color here all through the atmosphere. Notice it down here in my foreground, right? And I have touches of it in the trees. So bringing all that together, with color harmony. But I brought that piece back. I think I did tweak this one a little bit too. It was a plein air piece and it was sunset, and I just did not have enough time to get it done. So some of those light rays coming out of that cloud, I could not get it exactly where I wanted it, plein air. So I did bring this one back to the studio, cleaned it up a little bit. But, in looking at it, I may take it back to the easel again because I think I could liven up some of this down here. And it was a pretty hazy evening as well. But I won't, I'm not going to hesitate. If I think I want to change it, I will. I might liven up some of these colors. I think I could warm up some of this down here and just kind of liven it up a little bit. So yeah, Kathleen says helpful. I didn't know I could rework. You can rework, and remember, at the blog I've got all kinds of different little lessons. That's I put a banner on there so you remember. The lindaglovergooch.com 111 takes you to Painting Cliffs. That's this week's blog. But once you're at the blog, you can go and you can look over everything. But you do want to oil out. And I believe on one of those blogs, I have the oiling out lesson. We're at our half-hour mark. Remember, if you are interested and continuing studying with me, you can find my online courses at masterfulpainting.com/courses. I have a cloud course, Grand Canyon course, and the smaller it's a smaller painting and it's a quicker course. I believe it's about a 4 to 5 hour video course on all about rocks. Teaches you how I look at rocks, how to think about rocks, and how to create them. And following a photograph, I take you through a painting there. So, if you're not on my email list and you want to be, which my email list consists of me sending out Teaching Tuesday emails that gives you a heads up about the blog and that I'm going live. I try to remind everybody that I'm going live. You can just go to lindaglovergooch.com and there's a little spot there to join the journey. All right, my friends. Like I said, if you know any friends that would benefit from it, thumbs up it, heart it, and share it on out there. All right, my friends, you know the drill. Get to the easel, practice, practice, practice. Have a good one.